Test, test, test. All right. So on tonight's flight, I'm gonna just be doing a fun flight over Moncton. And I'm basically gonna do some instrument work, and I'm gonna basically teach anyone watching if they want to learn a little bit about how to fly using your 6 main instruments. I'm gonna be reviewing it myself, but as I'm doing it, I'll be teaching it, I guess, to anyone who wants to learn how to fly with their instruments, right? So I was a flight instructor a couple of years ago, so I'm gonna be using as much as my training that I had when I was an active pilot, and I'm using this kind of as an aid to start flying again, because I'm looking to fly as a hobby for the time being, and I would like to get back into aviation. So I'm kind of combining my passion with computer skills and computer skills, YouTube, blogging, and I'm combining that with learning how to fly and getting used to flying again. And my passion also is to teach people too. I'm a natural teacher, instructor. That's just my personality type. So it's kind of a perfect fit for me for right now. So so I'm gonna basically go up and do some basic instrument work. So what that basically means is I'm gonna be looking to fly using these 6 instruments. Okay, the basic 6 instruments here. So we have our airspeed indicator. Okay, that's showing you how fast you're going, how many knots. Okay, you got your attitude indicator, and your attitude indicator is basically take your picture here and then basically use that for a picture outside your windscreen. So here is the artificial horizon, here is what it corresponds to. Okay, so it basically takes your outside picture of what you're seeing outside and it puts it right side into your attitude indicator. It also gives you different markings, and that tells you how many degrees that you're banking. So 10 degrees, 20 degrees, 30 degrees, 60 degrees, 90 degrees. Okay? So for tonight, I won't be going more than 30 degrees unless I accidentally do it. So we're not going to be doing steep turns at night, just for safety reasons. This instrument here is called the altimeter. So this tells us what's our altitude in feet, right? So what you need to do is, if you're going to use this instrument, it's really, really, really important to use this dial right here. See this? You have to set up the correct altitude by getting the altimeter setting, okay? Because this instrument is used based off of the outside external altimeter setting. So basically the pressure outside, and because it's based off of weather and different things, humidity, density, etc. You have to basically get a updated altimeter setting. Okay, that's right here. And the way you get your updated altimeter setting is by going and get the ATIS. Okay, the ATIS is called the Automated Terminal Information System, and we can do that here. So we can get the updated ATIS. Or there's another thing you can do, is you basically, if you know the elevation of the airport, which is in Moncton, I know it's 232, because right now it's not set for 232. So I know I have to get an updated altimeter setting. Okay. So this instrument is called the vertical speed indicator. It basically tells you in 100 foot per minute if you are climbing or descending, and it has a lag about 2 to 3 seconds. So it's really important, if you fly the flight simulator, don't chase this needle, because it's gonna be lagging a couple seconds. Okay, so it's really important to be patient with this specific instrument here. Okay, this is your heading indicator. So this tells you your magnetic heading of where you're flying. So a very useful instrument. So right now my plane is at a magnetic heading of about 325 or close to 330, which should correspond to my compass, right? So this number, if it is steady, should correspond with this. And if not, you can adjust it here, because sometimes this instrument gets off a couple degrees, okay? And you can adjust it in the air every 15 minutes, okay? And this is your turn coordinator. This tells you the ball is in the center. That means you're flying coordinated, which is really important, okay? You want to fly coordinated for most of the times unless you're doing special maneuvers. And when the wing is on this line here, we're doing a rate 1 turn. Okay, that's what that means, a rate 1 turn. The rate 1 turn to the right, rate 1 turn to the left. Here we go, we got our fuel. So what I did before flying, I actually put full tanks in the plane. So if you want to add fuel in your airplane, you just go ahead and I should get my pen out and make some notes if there's something. It's okay. I'll use my phone actually. When there's something that I'm teaching and I realize I got to review, I'm going to write down. And there's okay. Because I want to review the actual definition of a rate 1 turn. I believe it's when you're turning, if I remember, it was if you're on a rate 1 turn for, I think it's 3 degrees per second. That's what rate 1 turn means. 3 degrees. So if I do a rate 1 turn for 10 seconds, that should correspond to 30 degrees. Okay, so yeah, so I added full fuel to the tanks, to the left tank and the right tank. In the Cessna, you have a fuel tank on the left wing and a fuel tank on the right wing, okay? And you have the indicators here, so left, right. And the way you add fuel to it is you just go to weight and fuel, and then I basically just added more weight. And this tells you your endurance. So this tells you how much fuel in time that you have. So basically my plane can go fly for 7 hours and 2 minutes, which is a lot. That's good for an hour flight out in the area. So that's really good. Okay. So when you're flying at night, it's really important to keep the lights dimmed so you can see outside properly. So I'm gonna go ahead and just turn the lights down. You don't want it too bright because then your eyes don't adjust to what you're seeing outside. If it's really bright inside the cockpit, then outside you won't be able to see as well. So I want to turn everything down. I want to turn the instrument lights. There we go, that's a lot better. And now my eyes are getting adjusted to basically flying at night. And you don't want to shine like a light directly on someone at night. You want, and then the GPS, I think there's a way, if I can remember how to do this, that would be awesome. How to turn the lighting up. I think, let's see here. Clear, clear. Okay, I'm just thinking, how did I do this when I was flying? CDI, OBS, messages, flight plan, procedure, menu, no. Navigation. waypoint, nearest. Waypoint, navigation. I'm basically trying to find out how to turn the light up in the GPS. I might just leave it. Waypoint. We'll just leave this. So should be fine. I'll turn the lights up a little bit more so I can see the GPS. There. Oh, wow. Isn't that interesting? It's actually attached to this. Amazing. I'm used to using the GPS where you have to, where it's not coupled with, like you have to go in the settings here to change the lighting. But I guess in this plane, it is connected to it. So that's good. So here we go. Here's the Moncton VOR, okay, which is an instrument tool, VHF instrument tool that you can use if you need to navigate, okay, very useful. So yeah, that's good. Okay, what else do we got here? So we got our transponder. So 4700. So right now I'm squawking 4700. This number is a code that is used in flying, so you can talk to your controller, and they can identify you with a 4-digit number. Okay, so when you go fly, you're gonna go and turn the transponder on. Right now it's on standby. And yeah, so that's kind of the basics. This is your annunciator panel. So right now the brakes are on. That's good. If I click this, this basically tests all the lights. So when I press this button here, it's showing, okay, oil pressure works, oil temperature works, right? Or sorry, the lights actually work, and it's good to test this button to make sure all your lights are functioning. Flaps, mixture. This basically is a lever that helps you put more fuel into the engine. Okay, so when I bring this back, that means there's more air and less fuel going into the engine. If I go full fuel, then there's more fuel, so it changes the ratio of how much fuel goes in. If I bring this lever all the way back to the end, the plane will shut off because there's no fuel going into the engine. Okay, here's our throttle. All the lights down here. So yeah, I'm gonna go up and do some flying, some instrument flying. If you're gonna be practicing instruments, it's good to have someone else on board, like an instructor, or a friend to do it. But if you're learning how to fly, really, it'd be an instructor. And let's say you have the hood on. That means basically you can't see anything outside, and you can only fly with your instruments. That's basically what is a good way to learn how to fly with your instruments. And I might be able to, when I go off and take off, is to, what I might do is simulate partial panel. Or, sorry, simulate just full panel. And I basically would put clouds, so that means I wouldn't be able to see outside. So I'm thinking about doing that for tonight's flight. So what if I put my sunglasses on? Let's see what that no, that's not good. So we'll take our sunglasses off. So what I would need is, like, if you click on weather here, I might be able to put set weather uniformly for the whole world, set random only semi-controlled weather patterns, paint weather patterns by dragging the mouse, grab real weather from the net. So what I could probably do is pick an area. So look at that. You can basically add. That's cool. The more you drag, the more intense the weather gets. Okay. So yeah, we can go ahead and get into cloud and basically do. I'm going to demonstrate some instrument flying. So basically, I'll be just flying with my instrument. So I'm going to take off first and just with clear weather. We'll just go real weather for now. But if we want to go fly in the clouds, basically, which will simulate IMC conditions. Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll go through our checklist. And we already have the plane started. So I'm going to skip... I'm going to skip starting the engine for tonight. And we're going to go straight to our... So let's go to, okay, so let's say we did our engine startup. We'll skip that for tonight. Oil pressure, check normal, auxiliary. So for some flights, I'm going to be doing a full like engine startup from beginning to end. If I have less time for some evenings, I'll just skip some parts of it. Like we could put the plane right on the runway and just take off. And I'll be doing that for some flights as well. But I do want to work on taxiing at night. So I'm gonna do my run up here, and then yeah, we're gonna do some taxiing, and then just to get used to that. So if you ever want to see where you're located on the airport that you are, you just go to local map, so you can see it here. So, but you have to make sure it's on sectional. And you can see here that here's a diagram of the airport. So this is runway 29, or sorry, runway 29, runway 24, runway 06, and runway 11. So if this is runway 29, okay, and you want to know which runway this is, all you do is subtract 1. You just subtract 180 degrees from the runway. So runway 29, 180 degrees from that is runway 11, right? Runway 24, if I subtract or add 180 degrees, it's runway 06. Okay? That's kind of an easy way to figure that out. Okay, let's get the ATIS. So 128.65 in Moncton. So that frequency is really important to get before flying. So we're going to get that. So I'm going to click on
Greater Moncton INTL information MIG. 300 Zulu weather. Wind calm. Visibility more than 10. Sky clear.
I should be writing this down.
Temperature 14. Dew point -10. Altimeter 2992. Arriving and departing runway 06. Advise on initial contact you have MIG.
Winds calm, visibility more than... I'm going to pause this. Okay, so I want to pause it because I wanted to show the ATIS and explain it.
Greater Moncton INTL information MIG. 300 Zulu weather. Wind calm, visibility more than 10. Sky clear, temperature 14, dew point -10.
Altimeter 2992.
Altimeter 2992. Arriving and departing runway 06.
Runway 06.
Advise on initial contact you have MIG.
Okay, so altimeter 2992. So once you have the ATIS, you can, I'll click off here.
Greater Moncton INTL information Mike.
Whoops.
300 Zulu weather.
Just a sec.
Wind calm, visibility more than 10. Sky clear, temperature 14, dew point -10. Altimeter 2992. Arriving and departing runway 06. Advise on initial contact you have Mike.
Oh, I clicked on that box there. There you go. Okay. So this is column 1. That's when I'm using communicating on these two numbers, and this is column 2, and that's basically when I have the green light here. That means I'm transmitting on this frequency. Okay. So if I was to click on my my mic in the plane, I'd be transmitting on 123.83. So we'll go ahead and put the we'll practice
Error.
the frequencies here. So 121.8 is Moncton ground. So we'll do that. 121.8. See, this switches it over. So this flips the top and bottom frequencies like that. And then 120.8
Error.
is what we want. Okay, so we want that on standby, so that's the Moncton Tower. So what I'm doing when I'm ready to take off, what's going to happen? It's going to switch me to Moncton ground. Is going to switch me over. It's going to say contact tower on 120.8. So I have it ready to do that, and when I click on this button, it's already going to flip over. So I'm setting my frequencies up in advance. That way, when I go fly, they're ready. Okay, so that's the advantage of doing that. Okay. So also, if I was to use the VOR tonight, I would want to do a serviceability check on the frequency. So I think we can. I'll leave it for now. I might do that in the air if I decide to do VOR using the VOR, but we'll leave that for right now. Okay, so Moncton ground, Moncton Tower. And another frequency that might be good to use is the training frequencies out here. So what I'm going to do is grab that off the internet. XPlane 10. Okay, so we're going to go to I need to keep the website for, I think I have it open here. We'll just leave it. I don't want to, I'm trying to get the IVAO Moncton. Wait, IVAO Canada. If you go to ivao.ca/charts, you have the, I'm going to put that link on the bottom of the description. That website basically gives you the information. So I'm going to ivao.ca, and I'm just going to go to CFS, which is called the Canadian Flight Supplement. I'm gonna go click on Moncton. M. So I go down to Moncton, and the frequency that we need is 123.35. So I'm looking at the training area, so 123.35. So we'll have that frequency on standby. So we'll go ahead and we'll probably use that on COM2. So 3.5. So what I'm doing is I'm getting ahead of my airplane doing all this. I could look up in my Canadian Flight Supplement and have the frequencies changed in the air, right? But this is a good way to fly because it helps you be a little bit ahead of your airplane, okay? So now I got COM2 ready. So when I go fly, all I do is click on COM2, and then I'll have the frequency ready to make my advisory calls for in the training area. But if I don't set it up in advance, then I'd be dialing the frequency, getting it all up. Another thing too is you want to maybe have the frequencies you're going to be using them, write them down and have them on a piece of paper in front of you, or a knee board. A knee board is basically a board with all your information that you use for flying, and you should have it with you when you fly. I have one somewhere. Actually, I should probably go and start using that. Yeah, I do have one, I think, behind me. Just one sec. I'll probably actually start using it and have it with me. Just a sec. I think it's... saw it somewheres. We'll leave it for tonight. I can't find it. But basically, yeah, it's good to have the knee board so you can have all your notes and stuff. I'll get it ready for the next flight. So knee board. Okay. So we got our ATIS, so flight controls we're not going to be using, so I'll discard that on the checklist. Departure and taxi clearance. So what we'll do is we'll do an engine run up. The winds are basically, there's no winds really tonight, so it doesn't really matter what direction. You always want to do your run up into the wind. So I'm basically going to release the park and brake. And I'm going to move the plane away from this general area because when you do your run up, you want to respect that you're going to be, but that you're going to have a bunch of air that's going to be running. So we'll turn here. We'll do a run up. So here. This will be fine. When I do my run up, I'm going to have the engine running, so the propeller is going to be shooting air behind the wing, so you want to make sure that when you do your run up that it's an area where there's no one behind you, okay? So you want to respect the run up and don't do it close to other people or close to any buildings. So you want to turn that around. So yeah, just really, really important to do that. So before takeoff, park and brake sets. Cabin doors close and locks. Seat belts are adjust and lock. Flight controls. Flight controls. So we're gonna move our flight controls, and when I move that, you should be seeing the elevator moving. I can't really look outside, but you wanna look outside to just confirm with that, and this pushes the elevator up, down. Flaps, or wait, instruments are set, fuel quantity check, it's full, very full in the fuel, lots of endurance for flying tonight. Fuel shut-off valve is pushed in, mixture full rich. Fuel selector on both. That means I'm drawing fuel, so this basically tells me I'm drawing fuel from both the left and the right pump. Okay, so it's on, when it's on both, that's what it means. Elevator trim is set for takeoff, so we'll move it a little bit. I'm gonna move the elevator trim basically a little bit below this triangle. Okay, and that's set for takeoff. So we'll put our throttle to 1800s. Magnetos. Okay, so we'll go to left. We should see a small drop in RPM. Both. Right. Again, a small drop in RPM, both. Just one sec. There we go. And I think we forgot to set the altimeter, so I'm just going to do that now. So 2992, that's what we want on the altimeter. And the way you confirm that the altimeter is set properly, it should be indicating the elevation of the airport, which it is. So this is 232 feet. If it says 232 feet here, and I know in Moncton it's 232 feet, then I know I have the proper altimeter setting. If something's wonky on the altimeter, then I know I have to adjust that. So magnetos are checked, suction gauge is checked, engine instruments are all looking like they're working, it's all good. Engine instruments here, so these are all in the green. Amp meter check. So if I there's the amp meter, it's working. If I go ahead and turn the alternator off, this is one way to check if your amp meter is working. If I press this button here, I'm going to have a decrease in amperage. That means I'm running the battery right now. Okay. But when I have the alternator on, we're basically running off the engine's power that's regenerating the electronics. Okay, mixture set for density altitude, so I'll just bring the mixture back. It's good. Carb heat on, enunciator panel clear. Click on that button. So, enunciator panel, if any of these lights come up, oh, oil temperature. Interesting. The oil temperature light just went on. Okay, and it went off. It's probably because I was running the engine hot on the plane, on the ground, and it increased the oil temperature. As I bring it down, it goes off, so it's fine. Okay, throttle to 1,000. Friction lock is adjusted. It's that piece right here. If I move the friction lock, this piece here, if I tighten or make it looser, then it's easier to use the throttle. So you want to make it to whatever is comfortable for you. Strobe lights. So we'll tune the strobe lights on. They're already on. It's fine. Radio and avionics are already set. Autopilot is off. Flaps for takeoff. So it's 0 to 10 degrees for takeoff flaps. So I got 10 degrees. Parking brake release and windows closed. So before I leave, I added to the checklist takeoff briefing. So I'm going to give myself a quick takeoff briefing. We're going to be taking off runway 06 in Moncton and engine failure affecting the safety of flights. Before takeoff, so before rotation, before 55 knots, I'll bring the power to idle, full brakes. If we have an engine failure after takeoff and there's sufficient runway, I'll be pitching for 60 knots. And landing straight ahead. If we have an engine failure with insufficient runway, make small adjustments to avoid any obstacles. Land straight ahead. We'll be going out to the area, doing some instrument works, and that's it. So there we go. So engine run up is complete. So now I do my radio calls. So for radio calls, tonight I'm going to be just doing simulated radio calls, but there is a network you can use where you can make radio calls on a network of other pilots and simulated air traffic controllers, which is pretty cool. But for tonight, I'm just going to do simulated radio calls. So what I'm doing, I'm saying who you are, where you are, and what you're doing. So that's a good way to know how to do a radio call with your simulator. So who you are. So you first say Moncton grounds, and you say who are you? So it's November 172 Sierra Papa. That's who we are. Where are we? We're just in apron. I think it's apron. I'm gonna double check this. I don't want to say the wrong apron. We are in apron number 2. Okay, run-up's complete with information. The ATIS information was Mike. Okay, and we're going to be going out to direct to the VOR. Then we'll be going out to the training area 1 Alpha 1 Bravo. So it's a local training area. They know what that is. Okay. So you go Roger, altimeter. He'd probably give us like an updated altimeter setting, and then he would clear us to where we can go taxi. So we're just gonna look at the airport. So we're out here, and runway 06 was the active. But for some reason, the simulator has the lights on for 29. Let's cancel this. Like if I look down here, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna change the view and just have a look at the airport. I just want to see what lights they have on right now. Free camera. Okay. So if you press C in the simulator, you can kind of look around. and see what's kind of going on at the airport. So let's do that. Let's have a look. This is kind of a cool way to study airports, especially for lighting, is just take your free camera mode and look around. It's kind of cool. This is actually very useful because you can kind of see how everything, you can't do this in real life, right? You can't just take your camera and look around like that, but in the simulator you can. So the flashing lights, that is the current active runway at the airport. So it's runway 11 is the active. So you have runway 29 and 11, 24 and 06 at this airport. So we're gonna go taxi. There's the plane. I'm gonna turn it around, taxi this way where the blue lights are. I'm gonna hold short here, and then at this point I would be making a radio call. Actually, I'd be holding short in Charlie, okay? And then here I'd be making a radio call to Moncton Tower, and once we're clear to take off, I'll do a right hand turn and take off this way. So. Pretty cool. Okay, so we'll go back in our plane. So that's good to get kind of a different view of the 3D cockpit command look is my favorite because you can actually move around in the cockpit and look around as if you're really flying. So that's kind of what I prefer. Trying to get used to moving the... I don't have my rudder set up, so I'm just using ailerons to taxi. It's not really... Okay, so before entering there, during the day you can see a yellow line here, and that basically tells you, that's like your hold short line. So you want to hold short of the solid line. So right now we're holding short runway 11, and I'd say Moncton Tower or I'd switch over to Moncton Tower at this point. Holding short runway 11 in Bravo.
Error.
And then he'd update the altimeter setting and say clear to take off runway 11. Clear to take off runway 11. So on takeoff, I'd break the time up, so 8:35. Park and brake released. So I'd find the center of the runway by just looking at the lights. And we're gonna do this here. We'll apply full power. Airspeed is alive. Our airspeed indicator is working. Temperatures and pressures are good. So I'm looking at that. And we'll rotate at 55. And then because it's flying at night, I'm looking at my attitude indicator to confirm a nose up attitude. Okay? So if you're flying at night instruments, and because it's the way it is for night flying, you're going to be using your instruments a lot more. I'm taking off, looking to have a nose up attitude, but then I'm confirming inside here, okay, it's a nose up attitude here. Okay? And then I'm looking back outside once that's set up. Pressing 6 on my keyboard to get the nose, the ball and the plane centered. We'll put our flaps up. Also, I'm just going to lower the nose quickly for visibility, just to look around, and then push nose back up. So instead, I would like to cover the, I would almost, you know what I could do? Instead of putting cloud weather on the simulator, I could basically take a piece of paper and cover the outside references. That's what I might do. The only thing is I don't have another pilot flying with me. But basically, if I was to, in flight training, if you want to do a simulator flight where you're basically practicing using your instruments only, which is very valuable, your flight instructor will put on these little goggles for you. Well, you'll put them on, and then that way you can't really see. Let me just see here. Maybe I can do it. Yeah, so right now I kind of have a piece of paper that's covering. The only thing is I can't really see the, there we go. That's better. Okay, so I have a piece of paper that's kind of covering outside, so I'm not really supposed to be looking outside right now. So if you were to do this in real flying, before putting the goggles on, you want to say to your instructor before turning, clear to the left, clear to the right. That way you know your instructor is actually looking outside the plane. Okay. So I'm going to climb to 4,000 feet, and I'll start heading to heading of 090. So I'm going to do a turn to 090 right now. So, as I'm doing instruments, my eyes are going from the attitude indicator to my heading indicator. And then it goes back to the attitude indicator, and it's looking at the altimeter. Attitude indicator, okay, I'm going to level off. So, to recover from a climb, it's attitude, bring the power back, and then trim. So I'm looking at the attitude indicator and then altimeter. Attitude indicator, airspeed indicator. Attitude indicator, turn coordinator. Attitude indicator, and altimeter. So So my eyes like is going here, 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 here. Checking out the gauges once in a while. Here, if I was using my VOR, back to my attitude indicator, engine performance, attitude indicator, altimeter, attitude indicator, airspeed, attitude indicator, airspeed, attitude indicator, heading indicator, attitude. So that's where my eye, that's basically what I'm doing. I'm doing it very quickly. And I'm just gonna unpause the, oops, sorry about that. Okay, so that's basically what I'm doing right now. I'm always going back to my attitude indicator. That's your primary instrument for flying instruments, and I'm going back to my, okay. So now I'm going to turn to a heading of north, okay? So before doing that, I would tell my instructor, am I clear to the left? He says clear left. So let's do a 20-degree angle bank. So attitude indicator, altimeter. See, I'm making small adjustments. On my altitude went up about 100 feet, so I'm going to make small pitch adjustments to get back to 4,000. Okay, I'm coming up to 0, heading up north. So we'll straighten the plane. So again, you guys watching right now, you can't see the piece of paper that I have on my windscreen, but I basically can't see anything outside. I'm just looking inside to fly. Now the benefits of this type of training, if you ever get into IMC, if you ever get into clouds and you're a VFR pilot, you have the confidence to fly your airplane in clouds, okay? So this type of training is very important for VFR pilots as well, okay? So if you ever wanted to get into cloud, whoops, my piece of paper just fell off. Okay. So we'll put it back on. There we go. Whoops. Okay. So if you were to ever fly into cloud by accident, you now have confidence that your instruments can help navigate you out of it by doing maybe a 180-degree turn and getting the heck out of the clouds, right? So notice my VSI, if I'm looking at my 6-pack, you can call it, the 6 panels in front of me, that's the bottom right instrument. There's a lag to 2 to 4 seconds on it. So I'm not going to chase that needle so much, okay? It's kind of a second thing that you want to focus on because it does lag. Okay, let's say I want to slow the plane down. So I want to maintain my heading of north and maintain 4,000 feet. And I'm flying at 100 knots. Let's say I want to go to 90 knots. So attitude plus power equals performance. What I would want to do is change my power setting to get a different performance, okay? And I want to keep this heading of 4,000. And basically I want to bring down the RPM by 200 RPM. Because if I slow the plane by 100 RPM, that's going to give me a difference in airspeed by 5 knots. Okay, so I'm gonna pause the simulator. Show what I mean. This instrument right here is your RPM gauge. Okay, so right now I'm flying at 2,400 RPM. Okay, which is giving me an airspeed of about roughly 100 knots. And right now I have I should be basically straight and level, but I'm descending a bit. Okay, we'll say I'm straight and level. If I want to slow down to 90 knots and maintain straight and level flight, I need to lower my RPM by 200, okay? If I lower it by 100 RPM, that's a difference in 5 knots, and then 200 RPM, that's 10 knots. Okay. So, I'm just gonna cheat and take my so basically I'm gonna lower I'm just gonna slow down by 200 RPM and I'm gonna basically give the airspeed time to slow down. Which it is. So if you look on my airspeed indicator, I'm flying now at about 95 knots. And I'm also going back to my heading up north. So I'm slowly banking to the left. Okay, and I got my airspeed that I wanted. Look at that, 90 knots. Or sorry, yeah, 90 knots. And I'm getting back I'm making small adjustments in the airplane, nothing too crazy. I'm pitching down a little bit because I'm climbing a bit. I'm going back to my heading up north. So I'm looking at my attitude indicator, looking at my heading. Looking at my attitude indicator, I'm looking at my altimeter. Okay, I'm at 4,000, great. Oh, it's climbing a bit. See that? I'm slowly pitching down now. Okay, back to my attitude indicator. So that's basically, yeah, that's instrument flying. Got that airspeed of 90 knots, which is awesome. Okay, now I'm gonna do a turn to south. I'm flying north, I'm gonna turn to south. I'm gonna turn at, let's do 20 degrees to the right. So if I was a student, I would tell my instructor my clear to the right because I'm not looking out. He says clear right. So I'm banking the plane to 20 degrees. And I'm keeping my horizon where I want it to. Okay, I'm holding that heading of 20 degrees. I'm stepping on the ball a bit, so I'm pressing 6 on my keyboard to get the ball centered on the turn coordinator. And look at that, I still have the same airspeed performance of 90 knots. Look at that. You see that? So that's perfect, that's what we want. Now when I recover from a turn, what you want to do, there's south, I'm going to turn now. You take half the angle of bank you're turning, and that's when you start your turn. So I was turning at 20 degrees, or I was doing a 20 degree angle bank. 10 degrees before I get to heading of 180, which is 170, I start my turn out to fly straight and level. That way I'm not going to miss the turn. Okay, does that make sense? So I was banking at 20 degrees, take half of that, and when I was at 170, that's 10 degrees from 180 is 170, I start my turn. Okay, let's do a turn to 030, so I'm telling my instructor cleared left, and I'll do a 30 degree angle bank. So stepping on the ball. At 30 degrees, you may want to pitch back in your control column a little bit to maintain your altitude so you don't descend. Okay. So 030, I'm taking half of that, which is 15 degrees, and I'm going to start, there it is, 15 degrees. I'm going to start turning back to 030. Boom. Okay. And I'm climbing, which is not good. See how I climbed there by 200 feet? So I'm going to pitch down and get that to correct it. Making small adjustments. Okay, so I'm going to do a climb now to 4,500 feet. So when we climb, it's attitude power trim. We're going up to the apartment, down to CPAT. So attitude, we're going to climb out at, we'll do 70 knots. So I'm going to pitch back to 70 knots. Okay, once I got 70 knots my airspeed, I'm going to go full power. And now I'm trimming the plane. So I'm climbing out here. So we'll climb to 4,500 feet. So there it is. So we'll recover, cruise attitude, bringing the power back, and trim. Easier said than done when you're starting off. It takes time to get used to the instruments and stuff. You know, it takes time. It really does. It's not going to happen overnight to get good with flying with your instruments. But it's worth it, because if you get more comfortable with your instruments and you master the basics with flying instruments, it's going to make you a smarter, a stronger VFR pilot, and a stronger pilot overall, and then it'll help you progress too with your flying. Okay, I'm going to do a rate 1 turn to 270, so we'll clear left. And I'm descending, that's not good. We'll just pitch back a bit. Rate 1 turn, I'm looking at my turn coordinator and basically making that wing there and then keeping the ball center. That's rate 1. And we're going to get rid of this. So I'm done for instrument flying for tonight. So we'll continue the rate 1 turn 270. So 270 is coming up, leveling the wings. All right, cool. I'm just gonna look around now for a bit. Just get my eyes readjusted to VFR flying, or outside, looking outside flying. You can see the airport there. So it looks like the active runways on both ends. See that? See that beacon there? That's an indicator that you're at the airport. So you can see that beacon when you fly in real life. You can see that pretty easily when you fly. So it helps you find the airport when you're looking outside. Like tonight, I can't really see where the horizon is, right? It's very difficult to see because like I can mix the stars with the lights down here. It's kind of difficult. So I have this instrument here to kind of help navigate at night. And I would also probably, if I was flying, I would probably dim the lights a bit here. There we go. So the more I dim my lights like that, now if I look outside, it's much easier to see. We're still kind of in the Moncton control zone, so I kind of should have mentioned more about radio calls, but basically we're just on the outskirt of the Toronto frequency, and I'd probably make a radio call 123.35, switch over. So I'd say like a traffic advisory, Cessna 172, November 122 Sierra Papa is working 5,000 feet and below in areas 1 Alpha 1 Bravo. Any conflict, contact. November 172 Sierra Papa. There's the airport. The advantage of mastering the 6-pack here, these primary instrument flying, when you get into flying other planes in your simulator, you're going to be a lot more ahead of the plane. You'll be more confident, right? Because there's so much going on in other aircrafts with different instruments. But if you master the basics, that transfers over to flying multi-engine and the other planes too. So the fundamentals of flight always apply. Okay, next thing I want to practice is let's go direct to the VOR. Okay, so the VOR is right here. So I want to get the frequency. I'm going to quickly go online and get the VOR frequency. So it's a VOR TACAN 1173. You can do a VOT check on 1157. 173. So that's nav 2. CDI, we'll do VLOC. So let's see if I pause this. There we go. So there's the identifier for so I'm looking on my map right now and I'm looking at the VOR. Okay, so you hear that beeping noise? So basically what I'm doing is I'm looking at my chart and confirming that I'm on the right frequency to navigate. So before you navigate on a VOR, you want to check. If you don't check, you may be on the wrong frequency. Also, too, if you don't check, then you could potentially have an unserviceable nav aid. Okay. So we heard the beeping. I'm going on my VFR charts, so I'm just going to look online. And I'm confirming the frequency that I'm hearing is the frequency on our VFR chart. So and then the next thing I want to do is we're going to go direct to the VOR. So we'll take our OBS. Wait, unpause it. There's our needle. We're going from, so we want to turn around. We want a 2 indication. This is good review for me, by the way. Holy crap. This is good to... There we go. We got a 2 and needle center. So now what we want to do is I want to fly direct to the VOR. And I'd say Moncton Tower, November, I'd probably switch over to Moncton Tower frequency, request to go direct to the VOR, and he says that's approved, and we're going to be flying direct to the VOR. So I'm going to go and turn to a heading of 230. Right now my VOR is to the left if I want to. Got a message for work. I'm doing this all while working. So So I need to focus on flying when I'm flying. Okay, there we go. The needle is now centered. So it's good. So I want to fly, now it's going the other way. So I'm making small corrections to get that needle centered. And I'm also not paying attention to what's that? Okay. You know what it is. I think I'm super close to the viewer. Yeah, so it's a little bit difficult to navigate. So what we'll do is we'll go, and first we had the nav2 set up. So if I click on this, that turns off the identifier. So I just want to, it's still, it turned off the no, it, sorry. Nav2. Okay, now how do I shut off the volume on? Okay, I want to shut that off. I know on the GPS you do it here. Oh, I think it's beside the nav. So I go. Can't freaking tell. Oh, I think I got it. I'm just gonna switch to nav1. Oh, shoot. 1173. Okay, navigation 1. See what happens. Okay, so now I basically switched to nav 1, so this is what I'm referring to now. Okay, now I want to figure out how to turn that off. So the GPS, if I press this button here on top of it, it would, but I don't. Off, 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 off. I don't want to get too distracted with it. Now I'm not flying the plane. I'm just gonna turn it off. So basically I'm looking for the button where you change the volume on the plane, and from what I remembered, if I click on here and turn the volume up, you can turn it on and off, but it won't let me do it. Oh, here it is. Oh, damn it. I think it's just right here. So if I turn that off, it should, we should be still navigating, but the volume should be off. Which it is. There we go. Okay, I figured it out. So I'm going to practice VOR. So right now I'm flying from the VOR. So the VOR is behind me. If I have a heading of north. Oh wait. Just 1 second. I need to make sure. No, I'm actually going to the VOR. And I'm passing it. This has to correspond with this when you're setting the VOR. This is really good review for me. Holy crap. Forgot all that stuff. So if you're going to use the VOR, number 1, you want to set the right frequency. Number 2, you want to identify it by listening to the Morse code frequency. Once it's set, you want to make sure this number north is relative to the magnetic heading that you are. And right now I'm flying away from the VOR. And let's say I want to fly away from the VOR on a specific radial. I can do that. So right now it's to the left of me. Oh, I just crossed over again. Okay, so I'm on the VOR heading of 220 here. So if I go fly to heading of 220, I can follow that radial. We'll turn here. Oh, I'm basically right over the VOR now. Yeah, I'm directly over it. So just switch from a 2 when the needle goes from a 2 to a from, like that. You basically are directly over it. Okay, that's enough of that. So kind of got used to how. So if you want to basically get the identifier on your for the VOR, you basically go here, you click this button here, and we have 1173 here. These two frequencies are for the radios, and then these two are for the navigational frequencies. And then you want to also make sure you have VLOC clicked here. So. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go land. So I've called Moncton Tower 3,000 feet. We are about 4 miles, all right, 10 miles east of the field, east north of the field. Request a full stop. There's the light. And I'd also like to do some circuits. Okay, and he says that's approved, blah blah blah, clear to, let's say he said clear to the right base for runway 29. So I'm smoking hot for that, but so I'd probably kind of turn here. He also said make sure your transponder is on alt, so I'd switch that. The plane that I used to fly would automatically do that when you take off, but this one doesn't. So I'm getting to my circuit altitude, which is 1,232. Flying a base, picking a reference point out there and flying towards it. So I'm kind of using that tower, which is kind of a 90-degree angle. From base to final, we're getting to our altitude. So power attitude trim. Flying out here, and then once we get close to the final here, we'll start making our turn. Now I'm going to also start our descent as well. So start turning. Just going to look here. So here's the airport. We're coming towards it. Start making my turn a little early, and then I'll dump some flaps, which I can't see right now. Just that. It's kind of dark in the plane. Okay, I need some lights here. There we go. There we go. So we'll go and dump some flaps. And we'll keep the lights, probably a good idea to keep the lights pretty dark on landing. Okay, so I'm gonna be turning now to final, pitching for final approach with flaps between 60 and 70 knots. So we'll say around 60 knots is fine. There's no winds. If the winds were gusting, I would take half the gust factor and add it to my approach. So if it was gusting, like 10 gusting 15 or 5 gusting 10, I could take that 5 or 10 knots, whatever, and then add it, divide by 2 and add it to my approach speed. It just makes it a little bit safer for your approach. Pitching for 60, and so I'm pitching back on the control column to get the airspeed, and the power, I use the power to control the rate of climb and rate of descent. So I'm high right now in my approach, so what I'm doing, I'm basically pretty much throttles all the way back to idle. I'm gonna add a little bit of throttle just for safety, just to keep the engine a little cool. And I'm also kind of crooked on the plane here, so we'll do there. I thought I saw the lights. So right now the simulator has the active runway for, that's okay, I'm still gonna land because the winds are basically the winds are light and variable, so it doesn't matter. You don't want to land you always want to land into the wind, right? But in real life, the tower would probably switch the lights to, and I think there's a way to do that if you have someone controlling the simulator. So we look here, let's just have a look. Yeah, we're kind of landing into the wind, or winds are light and variable. And we'll say run final for runway 29, and he says clear to land runway 29, so clear to land. But we'll do just, I'd say, correction, we're going to be doing a touch and go. So touch and go runway 29. Okay, we're going to flare to cruise attitude. Pitch back a little bit. Pitch back, pitch back, pitch back a little bit more. Hold this attitude. That's good. Just going to pause the simulator. We'll put the flaps to take off, and then we'll go ahead and take off again. Ideally, you want to be landing right on the center line. That was a little bit to the right there. So I'm picking a point up there, flying towards it, and then we're gonna do right hand. We'll do a left hand circuit. So. Before turning, I'm picking a reference point 90 degrees, flying towards it. That tower is pretty good. Also the water out there, it's about 90 degrees. Altitude, attitude, about 2400 RPM, trim the plane, we'll turn on to downwind, 30-degree angle bank. good. Say Moncton Tower. I'm on the left downwind for runway 29 for a touch and go. Do my left to right check, so it's good. Flaps are up. Temperature pressure's all good. Fuel gauges are good. Boom, boom, boom. Temperature's where we want it. It's good. Okay, so let's say he says we're number 1. I'm a little bit far out here. So I probably want to tighten the circuit. And once we're at a 45-degree angle from the threshold, so from like here to here, that's when we can generally make our turn. I'm a little far out on the circuit, so I'll start my turn now. 30 degrees, and once you turn from here, I'll start bringing my power back. Oh, now that's his active runway. Okay. So that's good. Pitch forward, 60 knots. And we're in the white arc here, so I can dump pretty much full flaps from the whites. So I can start turning about now. You basically want to make your turns so when you start turning, you're going to be on final approach. So about here is good. Moncton Tower, November 120 Papa is on final for runway 29er. He says clear to, or wait, and we request a touch and go, clear to touch and go runway 29. I don't like how I'm not really straight here. My thing on the screen, I can't get it to get on the center, so I feel like it's crooked. It's not good. I'm gonna pause this. Okay, how do you? Oh, right. So right, if I do a right click, that will. Basically, I was fine like this. So it felt like it was. If you do a right click and move it straight, that basically helps. And then there we go. Okay. It's still crooked. And then I want to move back. Okay. So I think there's a little bit of wind, so yeah. We'll just stick into the wind, to the left and opposite rudder. So I'm pressing 6 on my keyboard. Perfect. So we'll flare cruise attitude. And then pitch back. fast enough with this thing yet. We'll go flaps takeoff. Full power. Rotate. So tower, November 172 Sierra Papa. We're gonna request a right-hand circuit for this one. So I'm gonna practice on right-hand circuit. So in this specific airport, right-hand circuits are approved on request. He says right-hand circuits approved. Okay, so that's good. So I'm flying straight down. I'm picking I'm looking at that star way down there. I'm flying straight out towards it, referring to my heading indicator as a backup 2. Flying straight out, bring the flaps up. Keeping that climb out. So this time we'll do a right-hand circuit. So we'll do a 15-degree angle bank to the right. Before turning, I'm gonna pick a reference point that's about 90 degrees. So maybe that light there, or that's a star. This area here. And then 90 degrees from 90 degrees from here, it's about 030. Okay, 1,232, get the altitude, so had to bring the power back, 2,300 RPM. And the plane is nice and trimmed out. Perfect, that's what you want. And we'll start our turn. Again, before turning, I'm looking. So I got this big highway kind of as a good reference. This highway is a really good reference for the. Can you go out of the airport here? No. So. See how this highway is kind of a beam. The runway. Looking for those. There's runway there, those blue lights. So that's good. On pause. Start our turn. There we go. So Moncton Tower, we're on the right downwind for a little high here. Do the left to right checks. Check here, gauges, lights, prime, make sure flaps, make sure the flaps are up. Okay, and then so left downwind. We're on the right downwind now. So Moncton Tower, November 172 Sierra Papa is on the right down for runway 29. We'll do a full stop. He says clear to land runway. He says we're number 1. Actually, let's do this. We're number 2. We're going to be following a DA-20 on final. Okay. So let's pretend there's a plane. We're going to pretend there's a plane on final. And he hasn't landed yet. He's about right here. So we need to wait for that plane to cross our wing and before turning. So. Okay, that high was a good indicator for turning on to base leg. It's a little bit far out, but kind of like right here. So we'll dump some flaps. One notch of flaps right away. Then once we get into the white arc, we can dump a bit more flaps. Bring the power back. Pitch for 60. We'll go full flaps, or not full, but we'll go 20 degrees. So the diamond landed, so now we're clear to land runway 29. So notice how, here's an interesting phenomenon, like the plane's pointing here, but it's almost like the plane's still flying this way, so it's kind of crabbed into the wind, but we're still flying like a straight 90-degree angle here. We're really high up right now. I'm gonna do a full flaps and do a forward slip. Back. Stick into the turn, opposite rudder. Wait, stick into the wind, opposite rudder, I should say. Stick into the wind. Yeah, we're doing a slip to get, basically with all the extra drag when I'm turning the plane, it's causing it to descend at a higher rate of descent. And then once I get closer to the runway, I'm gonna go ahead and straighten the nose out and then do a straight landing. But right now, if I would land like this, it's crooked, right? But I'm just getting that plane down. There we go. So we're getting closer to the runway. So now I'm gonna press 6, straighten the nose out, and we'll go stick into the wind, which is to the left, and opposite rudder. Oh, nice and easy, nice and easy. There we go. My airspeed was a little low there. I should have had 60 all the way through, and then did this is good practice. So, I mean, just for myself, like using the flight simulator is definitely a good tool. I can't make it out to the airport all the time because of the time and money situation, especially time to get out there and all that. It's like sometimes if you just do some training at home with the flight simulator, put some brakes on. It's definitely a good tool to use because if you're busy and you don't have time to get out to the airport, whatever, it's like you have a tool that you can use at home to kind of do a lot of training from home, which is good. So we crossed over, we're out of the taxiway. So before doing any after landing checks, you want to get off the runway first. and then you can go ahead and clean everything up in the plane, like flaps. But first, you want to get off the runway, and then you can do all that. And Moncton ground, November 0172 is on. I think we're just gonna check the airport diagram. We're on Bravo, taxiway Bravo, looking to go to apron 4, and he says cleared apron 4. So we'll turn to the left, apron 4. And then I'll do my after landing checks. Flaps are up, car beat is cold, transponder and standby, landing light off. So we'll go transponder on standby. Landing lights is off. There's our, oh my goodness, there's our circuits. Interesting. So I was not quite straight on this circuit pattern. I was straight kind of here. This was pretty straight here. This is straight. This is good. This got a little wonky. But this highway is, this is pretty interesting. Oh, look at that. There's our flight. So we went out, turn here, and then once we got towards the VOR, it's interesting. Interesting. Oh, they even have our flaps, like when we do, it's good. So here we'll just basically go straight in and then turn around here. So parking avionics are off, electrical systems are off. Throttle to 1,000. Make sure idle cut off. Ignition switch off, master switch off. Boom, boom, and then And we're done. And it's pitch black out. I'm out of here. I can't see anymore. Glad I'd open the door. Okay. I can't see anything anymore. It's pitch black. It is pitch. Oh, I hear it. Wait, I got an idea. Do this. There we go. Okay, so that was our flight training here. Hope this video was helpful for anyone who's looking to use the simulator. And yeah. So that's we're in Bravo and we're holding short runway 11 or 29. But we're in taxiway Bravo here. There's the airport beacon. Taxiway Charlie. Alpha. Taxiway Alpha. And yeah, hopefully you got something out of this video. And yeah, I'll see you on another video. Bye for now.